today's show is all about the Cheltenham Festival. We're going to take an early look, and that's why I've got Andy on. Myself, I'm a flat guy, so I'm delighted to get Andy on the show to talk. He's a national hunt guy. Certainly knows his onions, and he's going to give us some early pointers, for the festival, and then hopefully in the week before he's going to come back on once we know a lot more about the confirmed runners and that, and he'll sort of mark your cards with some of the big handicaps as well. So it should be a great show. Get a pen and paper, make some notes on this, or listen to the podcast again just to get some pointers in that, because it'd be a great show. Really looking forward to chat. I'm actually going back to the festival for the first time on Champion Hurdle Day, and for a number of years. So I'm really looking forward, to sort of going back to that. I think the last time I went all 4 days. I was doing some work for a racing club at the time, some consultancy, and it killed me off basically. So
you have to try the Galway Festival. It's about 8 days now. Try that one if you make it through there. No, 4 is. I hope they don't. I fear they will try and convert a 5th day in the festival at some point, or we will end up with the festival moving so that we end with a Gold Cup on the Saturday. Mm-hmm. That would probably be just about as far as I would want to take it at the moment, but it won't be my decision, unfortunately. That'll be the Cheltenham executive. I think 4 days. There are some races now which can't become a little bit thin on the ground and a little bit convoluted as well. So it could be, it could be interesting times ahead. I think it's just about, I can remember the days of the old 3-day festival. I thought it worked very well. They probably needed to introduce a couple of more races. I think the Ryanair, for instance, has worked brilliantly. Mm-hmm. Now Grade 1 status, of course. And it looks this year I suppose you've always got the Champion Hurdle, the Champion Chase, the World Hurdle, and the Gold Cup of the Big 4. I think you could probably add the Ryanair into that as well. I think it makes the Thursday of the festival a really nice day to go. And just looking at the prices on that at the moment, that is of the Big 5 and those Grade 1 races, that's the most competitive races, because we are in the position this year with the Big 4 races, which I've just mentioned, of seeing all the 4 champions return. Mm-hmm. They all come back. Now, that's the first thing. Now, everyone will look at that and think, if you take the best prices, the accumulator is probably somewhere between 16 and 20 to 1 at the sort of prices that you could get on. Now, lots of people will be tempted by Hurricane Fly, Size in Europe, Bigs Bucks, and Long Run. All looks good on paper, doesn't it, Matt? Mm-hmm. But I just wouldn't be tempted in. This is a very, very tough meeting. And some of those, and 2 of those, will definitely start odds on. Hurricane Fly and Big Bucks are more than likely to start odds on. It's a tough meeting for odds on chances as well. Probably the stats on that are a little bit skewed by Big Bucks' emergence recently. And of the 4, I would think that Big Bucks is probably the most solid. But Size in Europe, yes, he absolutely hammered Big Zeb, and the Irish do look to have a stranglehold on the Champion Chase at the weekend. But I just wonder whether that performance could be a little bit overrated. And at 5 to 4, he's certainly short enough. And if you go back through the annals of time, there's been numerous occasions where this meeting has seen horses coming back to defend their titles, and you very rarely get more than 2 defend them. The last time it happened was in 2003, and just Best Mate and Barracuda in the World Hurdle actually defended their titles on that occasion. So there's a little bit of a watchword there, and looking at it now, it looks easy on paper, and then I just put the caution sign up at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, with how it's, how it's gone, it's so, they talk, it's the Olympics of the national. Do you think it's a little bit overhyped? And then you get to me, the whole beauty of Cheltenham when it was a 3-day sort of festival. It was, you used to have the World Hurdle, which was, I can't remember what it was, Stayers, wasn't it? It's called the
Stayers Hurdle, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That was on the Gold Cup day. Do you think, the whole sort of geared round the festival is watered down national hunt racing.
I think in terms, I think it is incredibly hard to win a race there, and any horse that does. And just a sort of one of all my personal foibles, if you like, is looking at horses that have run there and had an incredibly hard race. And how many horses have we actually seen have a top performance at Cheltenham and never quite be the same again? Just never ever. That is, and you've used the word Olympics. That's almost their Olympic. That's their gold medal performance. And whilst they run to a level after that, it doesn't quite. They don't quite get there again because they take so much out of themselves. To answer your question, I suppose it is a bit, the national hunt season is, any sort of race gets won, even and I'm not deriding the likes of Taunton or smaller places like Punting and courses that I love like that, but you could even get to that level sometimes where, races are won there and it's like, what race are you going for at Cheltenham? And it does seem a little bit over-geared sometimes and to around that. But I suppose that's where we've made it. Whereas the flat season has more peaks and troughs to it. Maybe with the national hunt season we have a couple of peaks, which is obviously this meeting at Cheltenham and the Aintree meeting as well. And that's not without mentioning, Punchestown and the Irish Festival as well. When we're talking this side of the pond, there's sort of two peaks, and that probably takes a little bit away from some of the other races. But we I suppose everyone has made it like that. I don't think it takes anything away from it. I mean, if there were 4 days of racing personally that I could, if I was excluded from going racing anywhere else any other time in the year, God, I hope that never happens. It would be the 4 days of Cheltenham I would pick. If it's a bit like Desert Island which 4 days of racing could you take? I think I'd probably take the 4 days of Cheltenham. It would be all the time. But I get your point, but it is incredibly hard to win a race. The one thing I hope Cheltenham don't do is, and they are possibly, as we talked about the 5th day, possibly diluting the card even more. There are a couple of races which you think they're a little bit weak on occasions, and do they have a place on what we've termed an Olympic card?
Yeah,
just have to sort of worry about that a little bit at sometimes. But having said that, 4 days of absolutely magnificent sport with jockeys and horses and trainers all at the top of their game.
Yeah, I mean, normally my sort of remit as a racing trader, Cheltenham Festival week equals week off. Yeah. And the reason is like for me, I just love when you got these just bread and butter meetings, because that's when you sort of monitor the movement in it's places like Punting, where it doesn't take a lot of money to move horses in. So if you do your due diligence, you can maybe sort of drip your money through the morning, through lunchtime, and then you get on a steamer and it just keeps going. Or you find one or two that's being backed against the favourite, being nibbled at through the morning, and you get on a drifter and it just carries on going. For what reason? But what I found with the Cheltenham market, the money's obviously you're at the bigger price points anyway, apart from these championship races. I mean, something like Big Bucks race, that is a perfect scalping race because of the money. You can almost, it's something
exactly. I think the only concept you would like to know there is where you are in the iceberg. your position in the queue at times, because you're stuck within 50, 60, possibly even more on some occasions, and you just have got to sort of chip away. That's where you've got to be. But there are some more volatile races, and there are angles that you can take use of as well. I think one of the tactics that I've certainly used over the years, and it's becoming more prevalent now, even away from the betting exchanges, is just a few weeks, and even some of the bookmakers do. I believe Ladbrokes are on most of their races going non-run and no bet at the moment, which is a tremendous advantage for the anti-post punter, but especially when the handicaps come out, because you can then back horses which, they may well be in 2 or 3 handicaps at the festival. You could probably go and back them for all of them. You're going to get your money back in 2. You've got to, if they're in 3 races, and they could well shorten up in one of the other races, which you can't do on betting exchange because you would lose your money there. Yeah. So you've got that tremendous sort of comfort blanket. So I would say when you get a bit nearer the festival, if you are looking at handicaps, you certainly want to be using the non-runner no bet concession, and I've had some tremendously big movers over the years in that, just by sort of almost second guessing where horses are going. But you've got that security blanket. If they are out, then you're fine. And at this point, I think trainers are very much creatures of habit, and they do like running horses in certain races. I mean, there's now the last race, the 27th of the 27 is the Grand Annual, which is obviously named after Nicky Henderson's father, Johnny Henderson, who was a great deal to do with actually sort of getting the current festival, up and running, basically, because he was director at Cheltenham for many years. And Nick, it's no surprise that Henderson's record in it is very, very good, especially with novices in it as well. So there's little things that you can sort of, you've almost got to do your homework and do that. And that's the sort of thing when we get to nearer the next podcast, which will hopefully be, a week before the festival. And I'll be trying to pin down some of the races where people are going to go, with their handicap punts as well. And there are a lot of ways you can do that. But there's no need to get involved too early. Another point I was just thinking of are these short prices that we've got so far in the Champion Hurdle and the Champion Chase World Hurdle, to name but three, especially with exchanges. You've not only got people wanting to back, you've got people wanting to lay as well. And what are the prices that people want to get after horses at? It's at those sorts of prices. And it wouldn't surprise me if on the day, a horse like Hurricane Fly, who on the form book is probably the best hurdler since Sister Brack. I don't think many people would argue with that one. Certainly on his last performance over in Ireland, when he won the Irish Champion Hurdle, coming back off what was a long break, beat Oscars well in a style of a very, very good horse. But he has had injury problems, and I'm convinced that people will want to. There will be some people wanting to field against him on the day. So keep your powder dry. And I think you might be able to get some even money around him on that day. Size in Europe, people will want to take them. You trade most days, Matt. Around that even money price point, people do like to get after us because it's a great two-way trade. And I can certainly see that happening with Hurricane Fly and Size in Europe. Big bucks, well, you always used to have that sort of blanket almost, a security, safety blanket of getting out in running, because he used to hit that flat spot. I think he's a smoother traveller now than he used to be. And people now know about that flat spot and almost don't buy it. They don't go for it. The price doesn't react as much as it used to. The statistics will actually say he still hits it, but for how much money, for how long? I would be very, very careful about trying to trade big bucks. And in fact, that would be one of the markets. If you think big bucks are going to win, we'll just back him, leave him alone. If you want to try and get against him, I'd almost operate in the market without big bucks. There is a market on Betfair already, and all the big bookmakers will be running that and get into that market because of the big four. I think he's the cast iron one. I love the horse. I think he's great. I was asked for my race of the year on RUK earlier in the year. I'm sure a few people saw that around Christmas time, and he absolutely. I mean, how many times have we seen a young pretender come along? We seem to get one every year, and he's pummeled them all. I'm sure he'll do the same again this year. And he looks a solid one at around 4 to 7, 2s or 1.5. That's sort of 1.54, 1.57. He looks a solid one to me. But the other two, Size in Europe, Hurricane Fly, if you want to back, I'd hang on. Because it's not only the exchanges, the way the bookmakers are operating these days, there's that I always call them marketing-led prices. They make no sense in the form book, but they want to get people and they want to attract people. And you will see somebody go a daft price about one of those two. Yeah. If not both.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, normally when you can spot, if, people want to spot marketing-led sort of prices what will happen is they will steadily drift up until around about 30 minutes before the race, and then they'll start getting, shortened in, because they can obviously manage their, they know the liabilities from the shops and
exactly. But in the morning, it's that headline price that they want to get. They want to get people in the shops, and they will do that. And certainly Hills seem to have done an awful lot of that this year. Ladbrokes to a certain extent. I noticed that Coral appeared to have got involved in that, although to be fair to them, they do actually bet to quite a decent opinion sometimes as well. But those seem to be the ones that are there at the moment. As I say, just running through them. If you take Hurricane Fly, yeah, it was impressive last year, but there's been as impressive winners. I hesitate that Binocular probably was in 2010. Rooster Booster ran away with something in 2003 as well. And there are a couple of decent pretenders against them. Hopefully we'll see one out this year in this Saturday in Zakanda, who of course won the Triumph Hurdle last year. He's in the Betfair Hurdle at Newbury, which is sort of still a little bit in the balance as to whether that meeting will be on. But it's a fantastic day's racing if it does go ahead. Let's hope it does. But Grand Douay strikes me as an interesting horse from Nicky Henderson's yard. Now here is a horse that is, if you think Hurricane Fly is a strong traveller, this horse arguably is as strong a traveller as well. Now how the two prices play out in running is one of those fascinating dichotomies that you're going to get, because they are both incredibly strong travelling horses. The one thing for Grand Douay that I would point out this year is that the Triumph, when he got beaten in last year's run on a new course, and it's a very long run from the final flight. And people don't often sometimes pick this up, that there's a difference between the two hurdles courses at Cheltenham. So it's another sort of point to check. Whereas the Champion Hurdle was run on the old course, and it's a much shorter finishing straight, where speed horses, you get a much more chance to hold them up and use that turn of foot. Whereas on the new course, you've got that long run, it becomes a little bit more of a slog. So there's just that little bit of difference that may well help them. And of course it pays to keep an eye on, of course the weather's sort of rather affected things at the moment. The plus point at the moment is Hurricane Fly's had a run, and the struggle, Grand Douay has run this year, struggling to get a run into him now. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think it's quite a done deal yet for the Champion Hurdle. There is a little bit of juice in the market, and I wouldn't be rushing to take the odds on Hurricane Fly at the moment, because I really do think you get some even money on the day.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, and from those obviously guys listening from a trading point of view, is what you got to think about is when you're watching all the preview shows and the snippets and the pundits and all that, they're going to sort of lead a little bit where the market's going to go, because the guys that sort of sit on the fence and sort of, well, I don't know, or be taking this on, you only need you sort of that you get that momentum. The real money obviously comes in the afternoon, but there's enough money in the markets in the morning. And basically what you've got to do is if you're thinking of opening a position is to keep everything as simple as possible and work out your risk to find out the answer. So if you think, like Andy said, say, Hurricane Fly is trading around, say, 190, and, you agree with Andy, you think it's going to go, above even money, is work out how much you're prepared to risk, and get your stop loss from there. So say for instance, you're going to put £100 in the market as your opening sort of position as a trade, and you're quite willing to say lose £10 or £12 or £15. That is going to give you your exit point. And what effectively you're doing, if you relate it back into betting terms, is you're betting that price is going to hit above evens before it hits your stop loss. It's simple as that. So, that's part of your trading, process is when.
I think that's fantastic advice, Matt. The point about when you get involved in trading is people think about how much they want to win out of the market. They don't think of the flip side of how much I'm prepared to lose. So have both ends of the equation sorted out, and that's exactly what you've just said. So have how much? Where do I want to start getting out? Where does the momentum run out? Or if the momentum goes against me, where do I want to get out? Because that is the whole point about trading, and where a lot of people, and I freely admit I had to learn it as well, coming in as a punter and not as a pure trader, especially with a form background, is there is a great temptation to let that trade run and go in running. So have your strategy worked out, and please, please, please stick to it. If you're happy to let it go and running, then be prepared for the consequences, but don't blow your bank doing that. Or if it does go and running, have a strategy for at least getting out then, or know how the horse runs. but don't try and do a hybrid of the two. So get involved with a reason and a point. That's where you're coming from, and look at both ends of where it could go, and look at where the momentum's going to run out. And of course, remember that yes, there are gambles landed at Cheltenham, but it is a much stronger market than you are dealing with at any other point, almost any other point in the year. And it will take an awful lot of money, and markets can move quite slowly at times, and there will be, thousands upon thousands in there as well. So, you're not, it's probably more, rather than a swing markets. Yes, you do get them, but it's probably more scalping, etc., which is going to work in those particular markets. And I tend to use a sort of quite a hybrid tactics, although I probably become more of a punter around Cheltenham than I do a trader. And obviously then obviously there is a fair bit of in-running trading for myself to do as well, based on track position and what I know about horses. And it's interesting, we can just touch on it, Matt. I just went back, and I know it was a point that when we were chatting about doing the show, it was something I've only literally looked back at last year, and I'll go back through a few other horses, but it's always worth checking. Of the 27 winners from last year, 20 of them had run at Cheltenham before, so they had some sort of Cheltenham form, and 10 of them had winning form there, and 17 had made the frame. It was generally the Irish winners that hadn't run there before, although obviously horses like Sizing Australia, which is cross country, had run round. They hadn't won round the course, but had won well there. The bumper winner Cheltenham hadn't run there. But I must admit, I do like horses, and some people shoot this theory down. It's a personal thing. I really like horses to have run well at Cheltenham before, or had some form there. It's not always possible, before supporting them. And I tend to find that horses do things again and again at that course. And the other thing to mention about the field sizes at Cheltenham, again, not always possible, but a lot of horses come from very small trial races, small fields in trial races, and all of a sudden they're thrown into a field which is probably double the size that they were, especially in even some of the handicaps, certainly more the handicap side of things. And I do like to horse, not necessarily to have won in a big field in a handicap, but at least to have run well. I always use the analogy of maybe this doesn't come out the wrong way because I'm a born and bred Londoner, so I live in the north now. But it's a bit like me being a bit used to the London Underground. Now, I don't mind getting having experienced that for 30 plus years. Don't mind getting bumped and barged around a bit. But if you come from out of town, then it might be all a bit of a new experience. I can imagine if you run in a lot of big handicap hurdles and chases with big fields and got used to it, coming to Cheltenham is probably not quite so much of a shock as running around in small fields and then coming there. That's just a personal opinion. It's something that is worth looking up and keeping on your side. Not the be-all and end-all, but just something that may be worth just keeping on in your mind. And Cheltenham, for all its, is a unique course. A lot of people think it is a stiff course, but you do need quite an agile horse. If you just go back and look at any of them, you can do this online, or if you've saved the RUK have been repeating all the last year's races on the channel. You can Sky Plus those. Just look when they go down the back straight, how many sort of bends and twists and turns there are, and then you've got to run downhill, uphill. You need an agile horse as well. It's not just the big, strong, tanking gallopers that you need all the time that you do, say, somewhere like a Newbury or somewhere like that, where you can really tank your way around there. And it just, that I think is why you get plenty of horses with course form coming back doing well time and time again there.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Trends play a massive part, and if you want the work done for you, then I recommend you get Paul Jones, isn't it?
You beat me to the punch. It's Paul's most excellent book, which is out on the 24th, I believe. Which is, I've actually got it's the Cheltenham guide. Cheltenham Festival betting guide. A lot of people shoot the trends down. I've found I use them as part of my strategy. A lot of people, you can statistically, I can, probably shoot them down, but they have worked time and time again over the year. The Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide, I think, is an excellent publication. Paul, who I know personally, puts an awful lot of work into it. Just the previews of the races and the profiles of the horses are worth buying alone. It's excellent. Paul also does an online update as well of if you want the work done for you. And I know this year he's also doing a live service from the course. If you buy the book, I think you actually get free as well. So he's sort of updating everything like that, paddock picks, course news, bits and pieces like that. And if you want to ignore me again this year, you can ignore me in the Cheltenham Festival Betting Guide, because I'm going to be one of the people giving a few views in there. Paul sent me some questions, and there's some tricky posers in there as well, which I've got to answer over the weekend. But that's excellent as well. And Paul also travels around the country doing the Cheltenham Preview evening reports. If you can't get to one of those meetings, I think he goes to about 10 or 12 of those and produces those as well. But you can find them all online. I'm sure Matt will pop you a link onto the site as well. But Paul puts an awful lot of work into Cheltenham, and he's certainly turned a profit over the years. And he's one of the people I always like to bounce a few ideas off.
Well, absolutely. Like I say, I'm not a sort of lover. I'm a flat sort of man. That's the game that I follow. Sort of go into hibernation. But I've contacted. I've been in contact with Paul, and the good news is, listeners, and I put the link on the blog. Is that if you head over to Weatherbiz and jot this down, if you put in PROX into the code on the checkout, you're going to get a £5 off the book. So you're going to get it for less than a tenner. So, well worth a read if you was thinking of buying it anyway. Get over there, because I think that's great. I don't know whether he minds me giving it a plug, but why not? It's an excellent read. And if you're a sort of stats and trends junkie there and you've not read it, then, certainly get it. At the end of the day, if you can save your time, because, it's not 3 days, it's 4 days now. There's so much, work that you have to do, and I think it's 220 pages. I think so. It's a big, and it's grown. I think I've got all of them since Paul started writing them. I can only say to the listeners, I ain't gone far wrong following the majority of it since I started buying it. So excellent. As I say, I now know Paul personally, and he's been very kind, inviting me to put a little bit in the book this year, and hopefully I've just actually put together a little website which I'll probably be starting from probably start of March, and start putting some in-running thoughts up there about Cheltenham and possibly some of the horses that could pay for a little bit of trading as well, because obviously the liquidity pre-race is excellent, and it's also excellent in running as well. And there's lots of horses you get out of. And I've seen lots of horses that have got done on the hill, and I also always like putting a few short price ones up there. So we see on that as well. But no, Paul's book is absolutely excellent. Can recommend all of Paul's work. Well, he's got some great stuff on the Up There Races microsite for Cheltenham already. I had a quick scan of that. So yeah, it's excellent. I mean, the beauty of it is, nowadays, whether you're punters or whether you're traders, is there's so much information, so much good information now in this day and age, is that you've never had it so good. The problem is an age, in my opinion, is an age-old problem with punters is lazy, take the shortcut route. You don't need to go to sort of great lengths to actually get the information that is going to stand you in good stead. I mean, just even like the changes that they made on the opening day doesn't relate to flatbred horses doing particularly well, because it nearly always goes off good to soft now. Very, very sort of safe ground. That doesn't relate to sort of flatbred. So you can start, you
can see how the changes have happened, Matt, because that Supreme Novices Hurdle, which obviously is the first race on the first day, used to be a real sort of flatbred's domain. And it hasn't been. It's sort of the speed test of the novices. And it certainly hasn't been like that over the past years. But I just jotted down a few notes before I sort of came on air. And if you want to, it's a real punting cornucopia at the moment. You can back, you can lay, you can take a price, you can offer a price. You've got win place without the favourite markets. Some places you've got without the front two betting in. You can trade in and out of runnings. You've got in running, anti-post. How much more choice do you want? You must be able to it's about finding a strategy and something that you're absolutely comfortable with. But there must be something out of that lot. There's some great people who do the work for you. And we've given Paul a big up, but there are plenty of other people out there who have got some very good views on the place. And it's about finding what you're comfortable with. And, how I always treat these sessions and my work on our UK is that hopefully on people's, eyes and ears who haven't got, unfortunately, as much time as I have on my hands to watch loads of racing and hopefully give you enough information to actually have a bet out of it without giving totally all the time an end tip. Although we always try to, point people in the right direction. There's a few horses that I've seen that I'm sort of quite keen on. I mean, we really ought to talk about the Gold Cup as well, because it's one of those years that you could actually come on to and think about, is this just going to be long run versus Corto Star again? And I just think there's a little bit more to the race than that this year. I mean, it's very easy to sort of boil it down to that sort of thing. And I just think there might be just a little bit more to the race than that. We've got Cordo Star against Long Run, the decider. But I just think there's a little bit more to the race here. And the fascinating argument, should they run Grand Cru here in this race? A year which it's questionable whether you should actually run it. I think there's some of the horses that came out of the Betfair Chase. I mean, Weird Al ran in that up at Haydock. He was only 2 lengths behind Long Run, and the form sort of stands up well against most of the other pretenders to the crown as well. And you just sort of start looking a little bit further down the list. I just wonder whether you might get caught in that situation. We've had it before, 2010, didn't we? Corto, Denman, everyone's building that up. What happens? Imperial Commander comes on and spoils the party. I just wonder whether we're in that sort of situation again. Long Run, to me, hasn't travelled like the same horse this year. Certainly didn't in the Betfair Chase, and didn't at Christmas in the King George either. Now, I, for one, would love to see Corto Star win and then be retired. I think that would be a fitting tribute. Whether that quite happens, but of those big four, I certainly think that Long Run looks the most vulnerable. And you've got to remember, I just think it's a horse that needs racing as well. I'm not sure they've got enough racing. So with this current hold up in the weather, if Newbury bit the dust, where would they go with him? There really isn't a race for him. I was just looking, possibly where could you enter him? And there just isn't a race. Whereas the whole thing about Corto is keeping him fit and fresh and well. And I think that's been the key to him this year. But do have a little look further down the list. I mean, my personal favourite in the race is a horse called Midnight Chase, who has a fantastic record around Cheltenham, mostly in handicap company, but did of course win on festival trials day, where he put them to the sword with a good front running performance. Now, if you think that there are not going to be too many front runners in the Gold Cup, now Corto could go forward, but if you saw Midnight Chase get an unopposed lead, I think he would make them really go round here. Whether he's quite good enough, he came fifth in the race last year. To my mind, I'd love him to run it. I really want him to run in a Grand National. He looks absolutely nailed on to run a great race in that, because you genuinely need to be prominent in the National. The weight thing with the National tends to go away. He would be near the top of the weights. And of course he runs in the colours that Lord Galeen won that famous Monday National in for Stan Clark, all those years ago, ridden by Tony Dobbin, when the race was off on the Saturday. I'd love to see him running that. And there is 4 weeks between the two festivals this year. I think he has got an entry. I meant to check those the other day, which I didn't, which is remiss of me, but I would love to see him running that. Of course, he won that Argento chase. And I just think, just have a little bit more of an open mind about the Gold Cup than some of the other races. And look further down the list. These four, look at them on paper, look a done deal, and then you look further down, and this has all happened before, and tough place to go and win back-to-back years at Cheltenham. I just would issue that slight wealth warning.
Well, it is. I mean, I know, and I asked the question in our room. I marked this Captain Chris for the Gold Cup, and I don't think he's probably going to run it. And what put me off, the Ladbrokes weren't offering a price on that. That will always, sort of. But I thought, that, quite, it was almost really. It's too big a price that you could sort of trade. But I think that's Tom Seagull's put that out anyway.
Well, he has. Obviously, Captain Chris ran a disappointing race last time out in the Argento when he jumped consistently right. He did that when winning the Arkle last year, not as markedly, I hasten to add. Now, generally when a horse jumps one way, something tends to be hurting them, or something is wrong. Now, I'm not saying it is with Captain Chris. That would be, that's pure imagination. But there tends to be something there, or they're not liking it. Something is not quite right. To my mind, if you look at Captain Chris's form, the majority of his decent form comes really in the spring. And it might be that he's just a real sort of spring horse that really comes on at that time of the year. You're taking a bit of a leap of faith there. But the race will be a lot stronger if they run Grand Cru in it. I'm not sure they will. I think they'll go the RSA chase, but I think if he was mine, and it's one of the questions I've actually got to answer for Paul's book, if he was mine, I think I may well take the chance this year. Certainly jumps well enough, and he's got enough experience. Maybe not over fences, but certainly got enough experience of the course as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been ultra, impressive. But yeah, it's fascinating, and that's, I don't do anti-post, but it's just something that we was discussing months ago, just after Christmas, well, not months ago, but about a month ago on sort of Captain Chris's, is that a trading opportunity, at the prices being on offer? But again, it's that, if you're not that close, that's why it makes it hard to sort of, take positions. So, on Betfair with a view to sort of trade out. So, what I'm trying to say, listeners, is if you have that, is you best to use what Andy says is where, no runner, no bet. And also, on the actual day, if you think, well, one's going to shorten up, is try and get it with somebody that's going to give you best price guaranteed. So if you take a price and it's longer, you're going to get that price anyway. So again, that's almost a safety net when you sort of relate it back to trading, because if you think, well, my view is to trade out of it anyway, it's a shorter price, then you do that. But obviously then what you've got coupled, on that is, if there was a difference in the morning between the sort of the Betfair prices and the
I think it's a good tactic. I think if you've been trading and you probably get a little bit locked into the exchanges, be that Betfair or BetDAC, whichever is your predilection, and you don't and I'm guilty, and I've been guilty of this, and although I do struggle to get on with some fixed odds bookmakers, but you are guilty of not using the other opportunities, because there is no doubt that the Betfair, BetDAC have given the fixed odds guys probably the well-deserved kick up the backside that they needed to actually market their wares a lot better, and in some ways they actually give a better deal. Mm-hmm. Let's not be unfair to them. I mean, I've never been backward in coming forward and giving some of the bookmakers a good kicking, but fair play to them. In a lot of the cases these days, I'm pretty sure Ladbrokes have, and there's a couple of other firms, check round, that there have been non-run and no bet on most of the big markets for quite for quite some while. I'm just taking a look now, and let's be fair about it, that non-run and no bet, Ladbrokes and Bet365, Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, World Hurdle, Cheltenham Cup, they're non-run and no bet and have been for quite some time. Betfred are non-run and no bet on the Cheltenham Gold Cup. So, let's be fair about this. And a lot of the time in the big handicaps, they go a quarter the first 5. That extra place is worth something as well. So again, it's worth, shop around in those sorts of things.
Yeah. And use
the tap. I mean, you're not beyond, backing something, if you've got the funds available, backing something even best odds, fixed odds price, best odds guaranteed. And if it does shorten, you can lay lay half your liability or your stake back on the exchange for free bet. You don't have to do the thing on one thing. Obviously, you've got to have funds available, but it's a tactic I have used in the past.
Absolutely.
Or if you are a fixed odds punter, and I'm sure I'll be putting up plenty of information about things like this. Horses that noticeably trade short in running. You can just, you don't have to be quick on the button. You can put the bet in, in the morning if you want to. If you've got a horse at 10 to 1 and you know that it generally trades 50% of its price, 25% of its price, whatever you want your risk to be, then, put that in, use the keep bet facility on Betfair. You have to be a little bit careful to take a non-runner out, but you can put it in at the start of the race, and just leave it there if you're happy to do that to cover your stakes, especially if you're backing, bigger prices. You'd be surprised what goes off, what prices get matched in running is at times, and I know we've had conversations about this, Matt, of, I'm surprised. How did that, you see it quite a lot on, my Twitter feed is always open in the afternoon and I'm always happy to discuss races with people or potentially where prices are going to go and, you quite often see how the hell did that, or what's that effect of that horse trade at that price. There are people maybe not as adept at sometimes as reading races or just wanting to surely get on. And it's one of those, or maybe people just see races and horses travelling differently to the way that you are. Again, it becomes another battle in running, and rather than against punter bookie, it's punter v punter and people's views of how a horse is going and how it's travelling. It's fascinating, and obviously at Cheltenham, another watchword is they do get racing from an awful long way out sometimes. And we've seen races, rescued from the dead there. So I wouldn't be too quick laying big prices if they're out the back at Cheltenham, because it only takes one of them to wipe you out. Don't be laying 50 to 1 chances just because they're out the back, because one of those can be a very, very expensive mistake for very little, risk-reward ratio. What's your reward? Yeah, not very much.
What was that? Al Farouf, was it last year? Is it in the Supreme, about 70s in running or something?
I could probably check it up very quickly for you, because if I've got the races open in front of me, I could just look at Al Farouf's.
I think
record there last year. We can look at Al Farouf. I just looked him up very quickly. He went off a Betfair SP of 11.5. He hit a high of 130.
130.
Yeah, 130 last year. That was in the Supreme last year. But on his 2 previous occasions that he'd run at Cheltenham, he'd actually traded quite low and got beaten on both occasions. So I quickly did that whilst we're unplugging things tonight. I quickly did that on the excellent Proform software, which I've got open in front of me, and did that very, very quickly. I can even tell you that Alpha Ross, the race that it ran in at Cheltenham last year, the Supreme Novices, 42 runs have come out of that race, and 17 winners. So it was quite a decent race last year. So those were those sorts of things you can do. But quickly looked up his in-running record there. 130 last year. And of course that's happened before in that race as well, in the same colours as well, because Noland most notably traded. I'm pretty sure that traded at the top price and won somebody an awful lot of money. That was a couple of years previously. So, be wary of laying big prices. I'd be looking to back at the high ones and lay the short ones at Cheltenham would be the way that I'd like to do that.
Well, I mean, we chatted off air and you come up with a fantastic tip that people, if they want to sort of, in running, and at the end of the day on Channel 4 terrestrial TV, your pictures are going to be good. You gave an excellent sort of pointer that, I never really sort of considered myself is, when they come down the hill, what to look for when the horses are coming down the hill. And I think, just that could, be worth the wait and God. And it sort of almost proves the point with Noland and with Al Farouk of you can sort of spot those horses that are still got a lot in the tank.
I mean, what we were chatting about the other day was, obviously you've got the hill at Cheltenham. I don't like, so again, it's a personal thing. I'm willing to get shouted down, but anyway, I don't like horses which make up ground quickly down the hill. I tend to think it just bursts them, because you've used all their energy coming downhill and you turn for home, and obviously you've got that very long drag uphill, and certainly on the hurdles course, as we were just talking about the Grand Douai effort, on the new course, you've got a very, very long run between the second last and the last. And I just would rather see people sit and save their horse coming down the hill. The most notable exponent of this is, of course, Ruby Walsh, who is a very good sitter coming down the hill and gives horses just time to get into it. There's nothing wrong with making up ground coming down the hill, but sometimes there are quite a few people who rush them up coming downhill. And I just never like seeing that. If you sit and watch races, if you see some that are rushed up, not many of them actually end up getting home. And it's just how you watch racing, how you watch races develop at Cheltenham. And that's one of the things that I just never really like to see in horses. I'd much rather a sort of smooth progress rather than horses rushed up, much as I never like seeing horses make up lots of ground around bends either. That's, any particular course, that always tends to drive me fairly nuts as well.
Yeah, I think what you got to do is just pay attention to, probably from, if you've got a first four, it's the next pack of horses as they're coming down is see if you can pinpoint one of those that's sort of travelling in the next 5 or 6 of the horses.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing that's sort of run up. And I think if you are playing in running at Cheltenham, have a look at running style and how they've run at Cheltenham before. So have a mental picture of it. It's not going to, it's not an exact science we're dealing with, but it's almost a bit like trading, Matt, where you've got, a price that you want to get out of, or your price you want to get into, or, where's your trade going to go, but almost have an idea of the pace, where the pace is in the race, roughly where horses are going to be, try and map it out, and have an idea of roughly, and even if you do it on ranges of where horses have traded as well. What are they like? There's horses we know that they'll trade short. How many times do they trade short and get beaten? They're my favourite horses, because if they've done it 8 or 9 times out of 10, if I've laid them every single time, I'm the winner. I don't mind if it's 1.2 and I've laid them and they've gone on and won. Fine. I'm quite happy about it. I'm not happy about it, but I'm relaxed about that, because I'm pretty sure I'll get my money back the next time out, because they are of a similar persuasion, and horses are creatures of habit. So have a little bit of do some homework, and there are various ways that you can do that these days, and start looking at highs and lows of horses and where they've actually traded and what are they doing, and just have a little bit of an idea of an exit strategy, or where you would like your horses to be in the race. Yes, it takes a little bit more work, but hopefully when I've got the website fully up and running, I'm just having a little bit of a practice and a play around with it at the moment. I will probably try and put some pace maps up every day to do the work for people, and I'll hopefully through your good auspices and a few others, and via the excellent Twitter feed, sort of advertise those and put them up, and maybe even hopefully make a few suggestions about horses who can trade. Again, it's not an exact science, and things can go wrong, but you can generally tell something from where the way you start, and learn the colours. And start to look at the way horses are lined up, etc. And I think that the point about the colours, you're not going to be a Richard Hoyles, a John Hunt, Simon Holt, etc., straight off. but at least learn the colours of probably the first 10, etc. in the betting, and certainly your horse as well. I always make sure, I mean, I've been doing it a few years now, but I always make sure I learn the majority of the colours, and trust my own judgment rather than what's being told to be on the screen. Although the three gentlemen that I mentioned are all excellent race readers, and Richard, who is, I work with as a colleague at IUK, is absolutely brilliant at reading a race and someone I would trust implicitly, but there's nothing like doing it yourself. And the more you do it, and try during the week, just as a general point, turn the sound off sometimes and just try and read the race yourself without the commentary. It makes a hell of a difference as well. And it's one of those things I always try and get people who I've mentored and, watching, just watching, whether you're punting or not, whether you're punting in running or not, whether you're just a pure punt, you want to learn how to read a race, turn the sound off. Yeah. Learn the colours yourself. It gives you a different perspective on a race. I can certainly tell you that. And then write your notes after that.
Or even practice, trying to read the race on the reviews. Don't know the results if you're late in from work. Yeah. Just watch, because they just go one after the other. You can watch the whole day in 30 minutes. Is try and do it and say, right, I pick that horse and see how you go.
There's so many ways of doing it, but they're just a sort of few little tips and clues that are going around that I'm sort of started thinking of that people get in the mindset for Cheltenham. There's just one of the other things I just thought of as well. I touched on it before. Just take care of the entries between the Albert Bartlett and the Neptune. There's a lot of very similar entries in that. Fingal Bay and Boston Bob, two top class novices, head the market in both anti-post markets. Now, whether they'll try and avoid each other via a game of cat and mouse and one will go for the other, etc., I don't know. But there's a lot of doubly engaged horses in that, and there's an anti-post market. I could actually only find one horse that was definitely meant to, or in the front end of the betting, that was meant to be going for one of the races, and I think that was Batonnier, which has an entry. Just try and check this. It just actually only has an entry in one of the races, and that's just what you want to be clear about. Yeah, it was Batonnier, who's in the market. He's in the market for the Neptune. He's not entered anywhere else. So if you wanted to, you're almost on sort of safe ground back in here, because Batonnier won at the trials day at the festival as well. But there's an awful lot of dual entries between those two. Be interested to see where everything goes, and they're the sort of two races for staying novices. So just be a little bit careful on those, because not a lot of those races are non-run and no bet at the moment. I don't think anybody's doing that. So you're getting involved in those. You're playing a little bit with fire as well. Just be a little bit careful with those two races at the moment until they firm up a bit. But the shortest price horse in the market for the Neptune that's not anywhere else is Batonnier.
Right.
At this point.
Interesting. I want to just give the listeners a tip on, on the day spotting, potential steamers at sort of bigger prices. And one thing you can do, this is no form book related or anything like that. This is just like looking, at the money. You could go on somewhere like Odds Checker, and what you can do is you can see whether they highlight it all blue, or when prices are shortened up. So it takes a few minutes to run through the Odds Checker. then when you come back on the exchange, is the price that's on the exchange and the money matched. See if that percentage of the actual book that's been matched is greater than what the odds should be on, because it's virtually 100% book. That's going to give you the clues to then narrow the field down of ones that are really attracting money, horses that are maybe sort of, one bookmaker's taken a little bit of money and they've shortened it and the others have followed and adjusting the books like that, because that sort of cat and mouse will, play. Bookmaker might have been top price on a horse and then it's shortened. And the reality is they were 10s, everybody was 8s, and now the horse is 7, not really taking any sort of money. And also look, on Betfair, during the day, is horses that are out of sequence. If you spot one that's out of sequence, so say you see one at 8 and then the price above it is 10s and then the price above it is, say, 14s, eventually they shuffle the pack on Betfair, so the shortest odds will all be in the top. Again, reverse it back and then go to odds checker to see if it's all blue. Do the same sort of things of looking at, the volume that's been matched, and then just revisit that every sort of 30 minutes and just do the same process once you started narrowing the field. And then you can actually see if there's a sustained support on these horses. Because I can tell you now, just by doing that, that gets a lot of the big placed horses. There is money for them in it, and it's this type of money where during the day, the volume of money that's going through is more than what their implied probability of what they should be taking off the book for that particular price. So that's just a little snippet, with no form analysis that you could start, just putting in to maybe, get some movement, out of the prices.
I think it's not too early to start doing your homework for it, the homework for the meeting now, or forming some early opinions. I mean, we're still what, 30, longer than that, 35 weeks away, aren't we, from here? I thought it was just another point, if we've got time, Matt, just did some work on the Cheltenham trial meeting, which has really been in its current format since about 2005. There's been sort of a trials day since 2000, but in the sort of current format with all the races that there are, it's about 2005, and just thought that, that word trial sometimes gets a bit overused, but there's been 123 runners at the trial meeting that have gone on to run at the Cheltenham Festival, and 10 of those went to win on at the festival, and that's since 2005. But just breaking those down, and it's with horses that they've just gone straight from trials day onto the festival, but of those 10 that finished first, second or third in a trial race, the breakdown was as follows. 21 actually won a trial race, and 5 went on to win at the festival. 23 came second, 4 of them won, and 17 came third in a trial race, and only 1 went on to win at the festival. So if you're starting to look at those festival trial results, there were 62 horses that came fourth or worse in a trial race and ran at the festival. None of them ever gone on to win a festival race since 2005, and only 2 of them actually got placed. Wow. So I'm not saying put a line through anything that didn't get placed there, because you've got to be a little bit careful, because the way I've constructed these stats, it really is only horses that have run at the festival, the trials day at Cheltenham, which is obviously their last day's racing before we get to the festival, and then gone on straight on to running. There are some horses that have a run in between, but if you finish down the field at that meeting, you are on the back foot, shall we say. So that would have dented a few admirable profiles this year already. So it does look, last year, for instance, at Trials Day, it was 2011, there were 11 horses that finished first, second or third in a trial race, just 1 won at the festival, 4 were placed. So not too bad. The best year was back in 2007. So the watchword is, if one of those trial races and you're taking it as a benchmark for your form, first, second or third is really the place to be in those races as well. And it'll be interesting to see if the weather hopefully picks up soon. But if it stays as it is, we're going to have a lot of horses which are going to be struggling, to qualify for a handicap mark in a lot of the cases, because they've got to have the 3 runs, unless it's the handicapper's discretion to give them a mark after 2 runs. I did notice there were actually quite a few which could be running these novice handicaps, hurdles, that actually only had 2 runs, so we could see a lot of those scrambling for a run. It'd be interesting to see how it affects them running so close to the festival, probably at a reasonable level, and then going straight on to the festival as well, whereas trainers might have wanted a bit of a longer break. So start thinking about horses and how they react to those races quickly, one on top of each other, especially at a relatively high level, which they're going to be at the festival as well. I thought that was sort of one of the fascinating facets of this year's festival. We've had bad weather before. We certainly had it the last 2 years. But I just wonder whether people seemed happy the last 2 years going to the festival, and it became a tactic almost to not give horses a run and go there fresh. And I'm not completely convinced that works. And I quite like horses going there on the. It wouldn't worry me going there on the back of a run. And this cold snap that we're in now may just slightly change trainers' perceptions about some of the races that they're in. But as ever, it's going to be a fascinating 4 days of racing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt. And, this, is, to me, the start of the festival is the start of the real sort of, I don't know what the word is, but it's just the best time in racing, the festival to Royal Ascot. I just absolutely love it. It's got everything in it. It's all the expectations of both codes. It's fascinating. But and that leads me into bringing the good news for everybody, Andy. We're going to do a seminar, aren't we?
We certainly are. On the. You've got the date there. It's good job. You're going to remind me. It's 28th of April, isn't it?
Yeah, 28th of April. It's at my usual place, Crown Plaza in Birmingham. The reason I do it at the Crown Plaza, it's a couple of hours from London. It's a couple of hours from Manchester, Sheffield, Leeds, and Bristol, Cardiff. It's central in the country, and it's only 30 minutes sort of away from me. So it's sort of, that's why I like doing it. And the actual place is great. We've got full Wi-Fi. It's going to be £120 for the day, and that includes all your sort of buffet lunch, all your refreshments, all your course notes, and that's it. It's great value. We're going to sort of go right through the whole sort of fundamentals and the dynamic of trading the racing market. We've been doing this over a decade. Living and breathing this, and also we've got Simon coming along. He's going to talk about Proform software. We both, Andy and myself, use this. Andy's had a lot of input in the in running stuff, and we're going to sort of cover that as well on the day. So it's aimed at it's a hybrid of whether you're a trader or a punter is how you can really attack these markets effectively, and give you the sort of the real core skill sets. There'll be a live trading session in the afternoon, 2.5 hour live trading session where we'll put some of the stuff that we've discussed and talked about in the morning. We'll put that into practice, live demonstrations, so you can actually see this, working in the markets. And I think it's going to be very, very popular, certainly with the guys that are following me daily on the X-Movers. They've just seen the power of these racing markets and that. So, if you want to come along, I'll put the link on the blog, but it's proxtrading.co.uk/seminars. If you just click on that, you can sort of click on the button. It's £40 deposit, and then the balance will be paid the week before. It's also the old Whitbread Gold Cup day, so it's a great day's racing, good racing on both sides of the card. So if you like the National Hunter, if you like flat like myself, then we're going to be covering that. And I think there's other good meetings anyway, throughout the day. So spaces are going to be limited, and I think it'd be popular. So if you are interested in this, and some of the stuff that you're going to learn on the day, you can directly take it straight into the evening race meetings as well. So, even if you work throughout the day, you're gonna have the whole summer that you can practice and hone these skills. And I think it's going to be, going to be a great day, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's more details on the webpage of the actual structure and the breakdown of the day, of what we're going to be covering, what topics we're going to be covering. And I think for the money, I don't think you'll find better. I honestly don't. So,
I'm certainly looking forward to doing it, Matt. It's been a while since I've done any training. Obviously, some people might know that I was heavily involved with the Bet for Education team for a while, with a very good friend of mine who you heard on the podcast the other week, Scott Ferguson. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of that. I believe you came on one of our early courses, Matt, didn't you?
I did indeed.
Yeah, you did. So. But it'll be a sort of step on for that, and as anyone who knows me well, I'm only too keen to talk long into the night, as long as you buy me a pint, about any aspect of trading, punting, whatever, and obviously how to use the software that I use and how to sort of take races apart and deconstruct them. There are no shortcuts. It's hard work all the way that you've got to use, but I think there's enough knowledge around now than tools that you can use to be, as you said earlier, Matt, I think we've never had it so good, to be quite honest with you, and you really ought to be using a lot of this stuff to actually give yourself an advantage on the days that you do punt, or using other people's knowledge to sort of put you in the right position. As I say, it's the first time we've all collaborated in a day like this. I hope it's a great success. I, looked through the, obviously was chatting with, we met on Monday, Matt, and talked about all the agenda and everything, and I'm hugely excited about it. I hope it produces a lot of questions on the day, as these days generally do, and I'm sure we'll be going off at various tangents at various times. You might even get me to talk about a bit of NFL. In fact, you probably are, just to stop me. But, it's racing mainly. But I'm sure we'll be able to cover off a few other bits and pieces about sport as well. So, it'll be interesting. But
I was going to say, yeah. Well, everything that I do in the sports market is all what I've learned in the racing.
There's a lot of things. There are a lot of applications and a lot of knowledge and learning that it doesn't matter particularly what you trade. There is, some great information on the majority of sports out there. It's how you apply it and the discipline. I know you're going to talk about, mindsets and disciplines and things like that. We've all come through that that sort of circle, etc., and done those sorts of things. And it really is, it's just, and I think, and I learned this from doing, when I was involved in the Betfair sessions as well, is that people get an awful lot out of meeting other punters as well.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes you don't get an awful lot of time to talk, and there's some fantastic exchanges of ideas, and I'm even hopefully going to learn something from people as well, and some strategies that have come out. And I enjoy doing these podcasts. I hope people enjoy listening to them as well and pick up a few bits and pieces. If anyone's got any questions, then I don't know if they can sort of fire them into you, Matt. I'm always happy to answer them, or you can probably fire them at me over the Twitter sphere is usually the best place to get hold of me these days. If you want to sort of follow me on there, it's and it's Bickley 14, Bickley 14. It's the place where I used to live with our old door number. that's the reason behind that one. But if you want to get hold of me or follow me on there, there's usually the odd snippet that goes up each day, or even if you just want to have a banter about most things.
Absolutely,
I'm available there.
Absolutely, yeah. I think to sort of just sum up the day and the show. It's been a fascinating show. The day is you're going to get a blueprint of where the markets are today in 2012. There's lots of things on the internet that are, being bandied about, which is sort of hybrids or crossovers from the markets. 2003, 2004, 05, that time, the markets are totally different now. You're going to get the latest information. So, wherever you want to be in the markets to sort of, take this knowledge away with you and be, with the latest, freshest information of the racing markets. So it'd be a great day. Well, thanks for coming on, Andy.
It's absolute pleasure. If you want to watch one thing this weekend, if it is on, I won't say anything about the racing this side of the Irish Sea, but if you want to watch something over the weekend, there's a Fox Hunters Chase. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but there's a big one at Leopardstown on Sunday if it's on. There's a horse called On the Fringe. Now, if that's it's traditionally one of the strongest hunters chases that gets run in Ireland. If On the Fringe does well there, you might want to take a bit of a punt on him for the Fox Hunters actually at Cheltenham. I think he could well be a mover if he runs well at the weekend. So you might want to get poised. If you see On the Fringe run a good race, I think the price could well collapse. And he could all start favourite for the Cheltenham Fox Hunters, along with a horse called Backstage, of course, who will be famous for national fame in years past. But On the Fringe is certainly a hunter to watch out for if we don't get any action this side of the pond over the weekend.
Excellent. Well, that wraps the show. It's hopefully I get Andy back in just before Cheltenham when we can go nail in a few pointers. But yeah, hopefully that's sowed a few seeds, wet the juices a little bit. What just things that you could sort of consider when it comes to either betting or trading. We'll get a lot down in into the bones. Of the meeting closer to the time. A little bit of an extended show, but that doesn't matter. If you want to get in,
it always is with me, Matt.
if we want to get in touch, Matt at proxtrading.com. Drop me a line, any sort of things that you may want to cover in the second show, certainly drop me a line and we can add that in. But, whatever you do this weekend, apart from you need to check out, the blog, etc. Be safe, be well, be lucky. And I will speak to you again next week on another Ex-Traders Guide. Thanks for listening.